In the security world, there's this problem we all feel, but we don't always talk about it. It seems like everyone is starting to sound, well, exactly the same. It's a really crowded, super competitive market, and if you feel like you're just shouting into the void, trust me, you are not alone. So the big question is, how do you actually stand out from the noise? Let's get into it.
This quote from asmag.com just hits the nail on the head, right? I mean, picture it. You're at a huge industry trade show. You're walking down these long aisles, and booth after booth starts to just blur together. Everyone's making the same promises, using the exact same words. It is literally a sea of sameness.
And that brings up a really tough question for all of us. Is your company hiding in plain sight? Seriously, if you took your logo off your website or your brochure, would anyone have any clue it was you? That's the real challenge we're going to tackle today.
So let's start by really digging into this problem. This sea of sameness isn't just a vague feeling. It's a well-known strategic trap, and it even has a name. It comes from this idea of red oceans versus blue oceans. Right now, most of the security industry is swimming in a very red ocean. Think about it. It's a known market where everybody is fighting tooth and nail for the same customers. And that leads to this cutthroat, bloody competition, which crushes profits and just creates a race to the bottom on price. The goal isn't to be a better shark in that bloody water, it's to find a blue ocean, a totally new, uncontested market space where you actually create the demand and the competition, well, it just becomes irrelevant. So you might be asking, how did the ocean get so red in the first place? Well, a huge part of the problem is something I like to call the buzzword bingo trap. And honestly, it's a trap that pretty much all of us fall into. AI-powered, next-gen, future-proof. Sound familiar? I bet it does. These words are supposed to make you sound innovative and cutting-edge, but they've been used so often that they become completely meaningless. When every single company claims to be best in class, the phrase itself has zero power. It's just noise. And this quote from the marketing firm Nez and Pez just says it all. Proof earns trust. Platitudes erode it. Every single time a potential customer hears one of these empty, overused buzzwords, you're not building their confidence. You're actually making them trust you less.
And here's the real kicker. When what makes you special is buried under a giant pile of jargon, you force the customer to fall back on the one thing you were trying to avoid. They can't see the difference in value. So what do? They default to comparing price tags. And that, my friends, is a race to the bottom that nobody wins.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be this way. I promise. Escaping that red ocean is totally possible. But it does require a pretty fundamental shift in how you think about your strategy.
And that shift is at the core of the blue ocean strategy. Now look at the key phrases here. Simultaneous pursuit of differentiation and low cost. And my favorite, making the competition irrelevant. This isn't about being just a little bit better or a little bit cheaper than your rivals. Nope, this is about changing the game so completely that they aren't even really a factor anymore.
This slide really lays out the two different mindsets perfectly. The red ocean strategy is all about trying to beat the competition for demand that already exists. The blue ocean strategy, on the other hand, is about creating something new, making your competition irrelevant, and completely breaking that old, tired trade-off between value and cost. You're not just playing the game better, you're playing a different game entirely.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Well, it all starts with getting crystal clear on what makes you different. It starts with crafting your value proposition.
Now, a value proposition isn't just some fluffy marketing slogan. It's a really simple, direct promise that you make to a customer. It has to answer one single question for them, and it has to answer it clearly. What problem are you going to solve for me, and why are you the only one who can solve it in this particular way?
And here is a perfect example of the difference. The bad version on the left is just stuffed with those platitudes we were talking about. Industry leading, this vague experience. It means absolutely nothing. But the good version on the right, it's concrete. It tells you the exact services, the specific technology, and most importantly, it highlights the client's outcome, protecting their community. Now that is a message that cuts right through all the noise.
So how do you build a good one? It's actually a pretty straightforward two-step process. First, find your niche. Seriously, stop trying to be everything to everyone. Are the absolute best at securing mid-sized warehouses? Or maybe you provide personal protection for victims of crime? Define your sandbox. And second, excel in that sandbox. Every single part of your operation,
From who you hire, to how you train, to the tech you use, it should all be laser-focused on making you the undisputed best in that one specific area. But, just defining your unique value is only half the battle. You have to communicate it. And this means you need to do two things, and they have to happen in this exact order. First, you have to prove your value, and second, you have to tell a great story about it.
So instead of just saying you're the most secure, you have to actually show it. You need to replace all those empty promises with hard, verifiable proof. We're talking case studies with real numbers, like reducing incident response time by 43%. We're talking about showing off your certifications, using powerful testimonials, and highlighting the logos of awesome customers who already trust you. Proof is what gets you in the door.
But here's the really critical part. Data and proof are amazing. They convince the rational part of the brain, and that's essential for closing a deal. But they don't open the door. To make somebody care enough to even look at your data in the first place, you have to build a human connection. And the only way you do that is with a story.
And the most effective business stories all follow this timeless structure. You start with a relatable character, someone who's just like your customer. Then you give them a challenge, a scary near miss, a data breach, a tough budget decision. You show their struggle as they try to solve it, how they went through a transformation to overcome it, and finally, the climax, the resolution, and what they learned. This simple arc makes risk feel real and makes your solution the hero of their story.
And the reason this works so well is actually rooted in neuroscience. Just like psychologist Jonathan Haidt explains, our brains are literally wired for stories, not for spreadsheets. We make our big decisions based on emotion and connection first. The data, the metrics, they are super important, but their job is to back up the story, not to be the story. So when you boil it all down, it really comes to this. To stand out, you have to completely shift your focus. Stop trying to just outshout your competitors with the same old messages. Instead, start connecting with your customers on a real human level, with a crystal clear value proposition backed up by undeniable proof and all wrapped in a story they won't forget. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. The next time a potential client looks you right in the eye and asks, "So why should I choose you?" What story are you going to tell them?